Okay, I'd like to share this story about regarding Russia as a threat to Europe. Let's start listening.
The commander of the U.S. Army in Europe has warned that NATO must remain united in the face of the real threat from Russia. It's not an assumption. There is a Russian threat, Lieutenant General Frederick Van Hodges said.
I agree because they're flying around airspaces of countries that they shouldn't be, just provoking people all over the place. If you don't believe me, you can just look on YouTube or my channel or my webpage or Facebook or Twitter or everywhere. Recently, Russia has been doing this for the last, well, I'd say 6 months for sure, but it's been longer than that.
You got the Russian ambassador threatening that Denmark will be a nuclear target if it participates in any missile defense program. And when you look at the unsafe way Russian aircraft are flying without transponders in proximity to civilian aircraft, that's not professional conduct. Jeff Hodges spoke to the Telegraph on the sidelines of a military debriefing.
No, it is not. It's provoking conduct is what it is.
After an exercise to move live Patriot missiles 750 miles across Europe by road and deploy them on the outskirts of Warsaw, the site of a U.S. military convoy crossing the German-Polish border more than 20 years after the end of the Cold War made international headlines and brought traffic to a standstill as people posed for selfies beside the troops. The intention of such a highly visible deployment was to send a signal, Jeff Hodges said. That's exactly what it was about, reassuring our allies, he said. Jeff Hodges pointed to recent Russian decisions to move Iskander ballistic missiles to its Polipa Reg and Clay, between Lithuania and Poland, and long-range nuclear-capable bombers to Crimea. I don't think a military confrontation is inevitable. But you have to be militarily ready in order to enable effective diplomacy, he said. The best insurance we have against a showdown is that NATO stands together. Since taking over command of the U.S. Army in Europe last year, Jeff Hodges has found himself on the front line of an increasingly nervous standoff with Vladimir Putin's Russia. Eastern European countries are looking to NATO, and the U.S. in particular, for reassurance that they will not be left to face Russian aggression alone. A year after it pulled its last tank out of Europe, the U.S. is sending hundreds of tanks and heavy fighting vehicles back to the continent, and Jeff Hodges is in the middle of talks over where to position them. But he has also assumed command at a time when many Western European countries are cutting their.
I think the problem with the U.S. is that they've spread their military so thin, they're all over the place now, right? That what's going to happen? I don't know. It should be interesting.
Military budgets, and relying ever more on the U.S. for their defense. I think the question for each country to ask is, are they security consumers or security providers? Jeff Hodges said. Do they bring capabilities the alliance needs? My experience of the UK is principally of the British Army, and they are one of the best armies in the world, he said. They have extremely capable officers and NCOs. The relationship between the US and the UK is as strong as ever, and we are always looking for ways to strengthen it. We need the capability that the British bring. They've been by our side in everything we've done. We've got our own challenges in the US Army. Globally, countries are facing pressure on defense spending, including the US. I'm confident the UK will live up to its responsibilities. In recent years, while Western countries have been cutting their defense budgets, Russia has been spending heavily on modernizing its military. We're not interested in the fair fight with anyone, Jeff Hodges said. We want to have a match in all systems. I don't think that we've fallen behind, but Russia has closed the gap in certain capabilities. We don't want them to close that gap. The recent involvement of Russian forces in fighting in eastern Ukraine has shown that they have made huge advances, particularly in electronic warfare, Jeff Hodges said. But he doesn't think this is the start of a new.
Oh yeah, for sure. The cyber warfare is another aspect of World War III. As I've said in my other videos, I believe that we already are in World War III, just more subversive than it hasn't been in the past. But eventually it will get more worse. But right now it's more subversive, like cyber warfare and espionage and just, I don't know, just it's softer warfare right now, but it will get a lot worse eventually. Excuse me.
That was a different situation, with gigantic forces and large numbers of nuclear weapons, he said. The only thing that is similar now is that Russia and NATO have different views about what the security environment in Europe should be. I don't think it's the same as the Cold War. We did very specific things then that are no longer relevant. We don't need 300,000 soldiers in Europe. Nobody can afford that anymore. We want to see Russia back in the international
especially
community.
When you have the technology and everything to not have to have that many soldiers.
And cooperating against Islamic terrorism and on Iran's nuclear ambitions. That's different from the Cold War. Jeff Hodges has an easy-mannered list of men under his command, making jokes and asking the opinions of the most junior privates, as well as senior officers. He has combat experience as a brigade commander in Iraq, but in his current role he is to deal with different challenges. I'm sure they're not going to line up Russian tanks and go rolling into another country, he said. They don't want military confrontation with NATO. Our alliance is the most successful alliance in history and it has a lot of capability. Russia will not risk an attack on a NATO member, he believes, for fear the alliance will invoke Article V of its treaty, under which an attack on one member is an attack on all. Instead, the danger is that Russia will seek to put pressure on NATO members on its borders through other means. Russia doesn't want to let the temperature reach 100 C. They want to keep the temperature at 90 C, 95 C, but they try to keep it under 100 C, he said. There's information, economic pressure, border violations. There are different ways of keeping the pressure up. They don't want a clear attack. They want a situation where all 28 NATO member countries won't say there's a clear attack. He pointed to the large Russian-speaking populations in the Baltic countries, and the economic power Russia is as a major consumer of Eastern European agricultural produce, as possible avenues Mr. Putin may try to exploit.
Anyway, I'll stop it there. I want to try and keep the videos shorter, so I'll leave links to this story as well as other ones that are related to it. Okay, thank you. God bless. Amen.